Hey there, welcome to this first lesson where we're going to be going over what even is an infographic and the different kinds we can find when we work with them. An infographic is known as a combination of synthetic and explicative images that are easy to understand, that are combined with text elements that serve to share knowledge to the world in a simple way. The information is represented in a more visual manner. For that reason, the data transmission is eased so that everybody is able to understand it. With a simple image, sometimes accompanied by text, it all depends on the kind of infographic that we want to create. Some infographics represent in a more technical way, the kind of concepts that we could find in everyday things. Or maybe it's some kind of explanation on more interesting facts on things that we haven't really stopped to think about. Or interesting facts that in some moment we might have questioned ourselves. It all depends on what we want to communicate and represent with the images and the text combinations that we want to use. The composition is really important, like really it is. Let's move on to the kinds of infographics that we could find. The first one is the geographical one. In the geographical infographic, we're normally centered on the localizations where they normally explain certain parameters like, for example, the culture, the language, the population, the birth rates, interesting facts on the same place, etc. It might be represented through dioramas, photos, or simple illustrations. Now we're going to go on to the timeline infographic. In this kind of infographic, we see a line where there are different dates to be able to talk about certain concrete points on that line. Like, for example, general history. The next kind is the comparative kind. There are two contrasting facts, and they can be like, in this example, on different people talking about their abilities or aptitudes. There are different potentials, and it doesn't have to be necessarily on people. It could be about salt and sugar, something that we can compare. The next one is the statistics infographic, in which we have very concrete numbers that have to be perfectly corroborated so that they are true. The informative one talks about a theme that you have to expand on. Most of all, on the theme that you're going to work on. This one, for example, is on diabetes, and it has all the information possible on the topic that it's talking about. I want to take this one as reference, as I think it's quite interesting, and I could maybe try to work on it from another point of view, so I could use it kind of to direct mine. The next one we're going to see is known as the hierarchical infographic, and this is one kind of infographic that establishes the information, all the parameters, in order of importance they hold. In this case, we have a pyramid, and whatever is more important is on top of the pyramid. The next infographic is the steps one. So, it follows a certain number of steps that are normally repeated, and, for example, this is an assembly line, so it would be the different steps in a kind of constant circle, like a chain. So, the references I want to work from are few, but they are the ones that I find more inspiring when I'm working on infographics. You can look for the ones you want to use on Pinterest or whatever you find useful to you. And I'm going to take a Spanish one as reference, Spanish studio. It's called Relaja el Coco. It's made up of two young guys who work on designs and, most of all, infographics. They have work that are quite striking, in which they explain everything very well and they combine both information and images in a really cool way. I have my own style when I make illustrations and stuff, so I also want to take a second reference that is really popular right now. It's a webpage called Pictoline. It treats infographs in a different way, because it establishes a much more important relation with the topic of the illustration. And, well, that would be everything. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye!